It was a backpack, abandoned in the jungle. But when I opened it, I found something that wasn't meant for anyone to see, something that was meant to find me. We'd spent the past 3 days trekking through the dense, humid jungle, studying the local wildlife and learning survival skills. The trip had been challenging, but overall, it had been fun, at least until we found the backpack. It was the final day of our school's jungle camping trip, and we were all eager to head back to civilization. We were on our way back to the campsite, our bags heavier with supplies and souvenirs. The air was thick, the kind of humidity that clings to your skin, and the constant buzzing of insects filled the air. The trail we were following was narrow, lined with thick vines and overgrown vegetation, but it wasn't hard to navigate. At first, I thought it was just a pile of leaves or trash, but when I looked closer, I realized it was a backpack. We were far off the main path now, and it was odd to see a backpack so deep in the jungle. It didn't make sense for anyone to leave something behind here, but then again, the jungle was full of mysteries. I reached for the top sheet, pulling it out and unfolding it. The handwriting was jagged, almost frantic, but it was legible. The first line read, "I thought maybe it was just a joke, some prank." But the further I read, the more unsettling it became. Each note was more cryptic than the last, but they all followed the same eerie theme. Someone or something was hunting us. I could feel the weight of the backpack in my hands, as if it was pulling me deeper into something I didn't understand. The notes were written in different handwritings, as if more than one person had written them, but they all said the same thing. A dark-colored backpack, old and weathered, half buried in the underbrush. Maybe it was just a lost piece of gear, a forgotten possession. But when I opened it, I immediately felt something cold run through me. I was walking behind Emily, who was chatting about something, when she suddenly stopped, blocking the path. "What is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. But I couldn't stop thinking about the backpack, the notes. Something wasn't right. I had to know more. And the sense that we weren't alone in the jungle grew stronger with each passing second. The moonlight was barely enough to guide my way, but I didn't care. I had to go back. I had to figure out what was going on. I quickly shoved the papers back into the backpack and zipped it up. There were more that I hadn't seen before, written hastily, with more urgency than the ones I'd already read, as though hiding it would somehow make it less real. "It knows your every move." I unfolded it slowly, afraid of what it might say. It was short, the handwriting almost frantic. "It's already too late." Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves in the trees made me jump. The sounds of the jungle were louder now, and I could hear the whispers of wind through the trees, but there was something else beneath it. "It was probably just some weird joke," Jake said. "Maybe someone left the backpack there by accident." I carried it with me, half expecting the notes to call to me again, but they didn't. The jungle was silent as we walked back to the base camp, and for a moment, I thought I was imagining it all. A low hum, almost like a warning, coming from deep in the jungle. It sounded like it was getting closer. It's as if the jungle never truly lets you go. I stood up, my legs trembling, my mind racing. And when we got home, I threw the backpack in the trash, hoping that whatever evil had followed it would disappear with it. I couldn't explain what was happening, but I knew it wasn't just a coincidence. These notes, this backpack, had been left for me or for someone else. But why? It looked different now, as if the writer had been rushing, their hand trembling as they wrote. I kept turning around, expecting to see someone know, something lurking behind us, but there was nothing. The jungle seemed too quiet, too still. "What's wrong?" I asked, stepping around her. Emily was staring down at something just off the trail. "Do you think someone left it here?" Emily asked, her voice uncertain. "Maybe one of the guides lost it." The fabric was stained, and the zippers were covered in dirt and grime. It looked abandoned, no tags, no markings, just a plain, dark bag. I shrugged, not sure what to make of it. The jungle felt different now. Its sounds distorted, like everything was closing in around us. It wasn't the kind of peaceful silence you'd expect in nature. It was more like the calm before a storm. "I'll take a look," I said, stepping forward to inspect it. I knelt down and carefully pulled the backpack out of the dirt. It wasn't heavy, but it had clearly been there for a while. I opened the zipper slowly, wondering what I might find. Inside were papers stacked, neatly folded, like they had been placed there deliberately. "They're coming for you. Stay quiet. Stay hidden." I froze, my stomach twisting. "Do not trust anyone. They are not who they say they are. They are watching." I glanced around nervously, the jungle suddenly feeling too quiet, too still. Emily stood behind me now, peering over my shoulder. I didn't answer immediately. I could feel a chill creeping up my spine. "We should get back to the group," I said, my voice hoarse. "This is strange." Emily nodded, looking over her shoulder as if expecting someone to jump out at us. We started walking back toward the camp, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. When we finally made it back to camp, the others were packing up, getting ready to leave. Later that night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I snuck away from my tent. I retrieved the backpack from where I had hidden it, far from the campfire light, and sat down near a fallen log, pulling the notes out again. "You're being followed." My pulse quickened. I hadn't noticed before, but there was something off about the way the handwriting had changed. There was a final note at the bottom of the stack. "It is too close. Run." A sudden noise made me freeze. I spun around, my heart racing, but the camp was still far off, too far for anyone to be near me. I quickly stuffed the notes back into the backpack and crept back toward my tent, my hands shaking. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The next morning, when I tried to tell the others what had happened, they laughed it off. But I couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than that. The notes had been clear. Someone or something was watching us, waiting. When we packed up to leave, I couldn't bring myself to leave the backpack behind. That was until I heard it, the soft, almost imperceptible sound of footsteps behind us. But when I turned, there was no one there. I don't know if anyone else noticed it, but the whispering followed us all the way back to the bus, as if the jungle was warning us to never return. But every once in a while, when I'm alone in the dark, I still hear that low hum from deep in the jungle. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I swear I can hear those whispers again, calling me back. It began with a low growl that sent shivers through my spine. But the worst part was realizing that the jungle wasn't just alive. It knew us. It was supposed to be the adventure of a lifetime. A school camping trip, a break from the ordinary, a few days in the wilderness to bond with classmates and escape the monotony of city life. The sun was just beginning to set, casting the jungle in deep oranges and reds as we set up our tents. Not the deep rumble of a jaguar or the screech of a bird. it was something else, something more primal, more unsettling. It seemed to vibrate through the ground beneath us, like the jungle itself was alive, breathing. The air was thick and humid, the sounds of the jungle already creeping in around us. But it wasn't until nightfall that things started to feel off. We were a group of 8, all excited to hike into the jungle, eager to experience the raw beauty of nature. It's the jungle. We were laughing, telling stories, and roasting marshmallows when we began to hear something. He was the bravest of the group, or at least, he liked to think he was, and about to let something as simple as an animal scare him. The growl came again, this time followed by what sounded like something moving in the underbrush. It was deliberate, too slow to be a simple animal, too methodical. We sat in silence, the crackling fire our only source of comfort. But that comfort was fleeting. It wasn't long before we heard something again, this time closer. It's just a wild animal. I'll be back in a few minutes. At first, I thought it was just the sounds of the jungle, an animal moving through the underbrush, maybe a bird or some kind of insect. The scream was cut off abruptly, replaced by the sound of running footsteps. But they weren't Jake's. They were heavier, more forceful. Someone was out there. Just the oppressive silence of the jungle. The growling, low and menacing, growing louder as it seemed to circle around us. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel the sweat running down my back, despite the chill in the air. But then it came again, closer, this time, a low growl. But none of us were prepared for what we'd encounter. We arrived at the campsite late in the afternoon, after a long day of hiking. The first signs of unease came when we gathered around the campfire. It wasn't like anything I'd ever heard before. Its body was covered in dark, matted fur, and its face. It was as if the jungle itself had given birth to it, nurtured it, and now it was hunting us. We turned and ran, blindly stumbling through the underbrush, branches slapping at our faces. But the thing wasn't far behind. We could hear it, its heavy breathing and guttural growls getting closer with each step. The jungle seemed to close in tighter, as if it was deliberately forcing us down a path, pushing us toward something we couldn't escape. Its face was not human. It was something between a man and an animal, twisted and grotesque, with eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. It was as if the jungle was listening to us, waiting for us to make the next move. Dozens of them echoing through the jungle, surrounding us. The creature was no longer alone. It moved closer, but it didn't make a sound. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The only thing I could hear was my heart pounding in my chest as the figure moved closer and closer. I could feel the weight of its gaze, the terrible, crushing force of its presence. We couldn't. We were paralyzed by fear, unable to escape. It wasn't just watching us, it was waiting. Waiting for us to make the next move. Waiting for us to run, so it could chase us down. The jungle seemed to part around it, as if the trees themselves were giving way. It was closing in on us, and we were trapped. The creature's growls echoed in my ears, but we couldn't see it. "I don't know," I replied, my stomach twisting. "It's probably just an animal." He was already grabbing his flashlight, his hands shaking. The growls grew louder, almost like they were leading us deeper into the trees. We climbed up to the top, too exhausted to go any farther, and huddled together, trying to catch our breath. The growls stopped, but the air around us felt thick with tension. The jungle seemed to close in around us, its shadows darkening, twisting. Now, a figure, human in shape, but with an unnatural, jerky movement. It wasn't Jake. It couldn't have been. One by one, the others grew quiet, their eyes scanning the trees, the shadows between the trunks. The fire crackled, sending sparks into the night air, but the warmth from the flames didn't seem to reach far enough. The jungle around us felt colder, like the temperature had dropped 10 degrees in an instant. But I wasn't sure. Something about it didn't feel right. We shrugged it off as another jungle noise, but as the night grew darker, the sounds didn't stop. I wasn't the only one feeling uneasy. "I'm going to check it out," Jake said, standing up abruptly. "No, Jake, don't," I said, grabbing his arm. "It's not safe." But Jake shrugged me off, a grin playing on his lips. He wandered off into the darkness, his figure swallowed up by the jungle, a low growl, and then a scream. It was Jake. We all jumped to our feet, panic surging through us. "Jake!" Emily screamed. "Jake, where are you?" But there was no answer. "We need to go find him," Ryan said, his voice sharp with fear. We set off into the jungle, calling Jake's name, but there was no response, and that's when I saw it. It was Talon, naturally Talon. It was hunched over, its back arched in a way that made my stomach flip. We froze. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. It didn't move either, standing still, watching us. It wasn't a predator, was something else. Something older, more ancient. The growl came again, louder this time, shaking the ground beneath our feet. And then I realized something that made my blood run cold. The growls weren't just coming from one direction. There were more. It was hunting us. We ran until we couldn't anymore, our breath ragged, our bodies trembling with fear. Finally, we found an opening in a small clearing with a rock ledge that overlooked the jungle below. The jungle was quiet again, but the silence was even worse than the growls. And then, in the distance, I saw someone moving through the trees. It was wearing tattered clothes, and its eyes, those glowing eyes, were fixed on us, watching us from afar. The creature's growls returned, louder now, as if it was coming for us. And then it stopped, just a few feet away from us. It froze, its glowing eyes locked onto mine. We didn't run, and then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature vanished. The jungle fell silent once again. We didn't speak for the rest of the night. We never found Jake. The authorities searched the jungle for days, but they found nothing. No sign of Jake, no traces of the creature, just the endless expanse of trees. And every time I close my eyes, I can still hear the growls in the distance, feel the weight of those glowing eyes on me. The jungle knows your fear, and sometimes it doesn't let you go.